My name is Dr. Karen Joseph, and I teach 2 science mini courses at Deborah Bell's AIM Academy. I've been a teacher for 29 years. I taught middle school and high school at an online public school for 12 years. I homeschooled my own children from kindergarten through 12th grade. I taught many science classes at a couple different science co-ops, but I think the most important thing is that I love science, and I think science should be fun. Now, as you think about it, you may wonder if science really should be fun. Isn't science serious business after all? Well, yes, science definitely is serious business, but if we don't find ways to make science fun and engaging, students will sit through the lesson, they'll learn what they need to in order to pass a quiz or a test, and then they'll immediately forget all about it. I'm sure you've all experienced that before. Science needs to be exciting. It needs to be something your kids cannot wait to do. And if you make it exciting, it's much more likely to make its way into their long-term memories, which is where real learning happens. So what do? How do we make science fun? I'm going to give you my top 3 strategies for doing just that. The first and most important thing is to provide hands-on experiences. There is no better way to learn science than to do science. Trying things out for yourself and making a mess from time to time is a great way to have fun while learning. And science is no different than any other subject in that area. So hands-on activities engage all the senses. Each of our senses is processed in a different part of our brain. And when you use more than one part of your brain, you make more connections. And the more connections there are from one part of the brain to the other, the more likely it is that something's going to be remembered. So in my classes, I rely heavily on hands-on projects and activities. We make molecules out of marshmallows. We mix cornstarch with water to make a messy, mysterious substance that's not solid, not liquid, and not gas. We watch as colored water moves up the stem of a stalk of celery. Almost every day holds at least one hands-on activity. And it's really important when your kids are doing science activities, be sure to participate yourself. Kids love to learn right alongside you. They love to watch you get excited about science. And when you get excited about science, they get excited about it too. Now, the second strategy to use to make science fun is to relate it to real life. We need to understand how things that we learn fit into our daily lives. As adults, if we don't see a reason for something, we're unlikely to give it much time or thought. And our kids are the same way. They need to see the connections between the science that they learn and their own lives. So in my classes, I try to give lots of examples of the way a subject matter affects them in real life. For example, in my sensational science classes, when we learn about the eyes, we talk about tears. So I have them hold up a mirror and look in the mirror to see the wetness in their eyes. I tell them that those tears have several functions, including keeping their eyes moist so their eyelids don't stick to their eyeballs. And I teach them that the tears that they cry when they're upset or hurt have chemicals in them that actually make them feel better. In this way, maybe students will learn to see crying and their eyes in a little different light. The third strategy I use is to regularly check for learning. Now, that might not sound like it would make science fun, but think about it. Have you ever had fun doing something that you didn't understand? In order for kids to relax and have fun doing anything, they need to know what's going on. So while doing science, it's important to talk about science and to check to be sure that the students understand what's happening. When we ask questions while they're doing an experiment or project, again, we're engaging those different parts of the brain. The process of arriving at an answer and checking to be sure that the answer makes sense is an important part of learning. In addition, answering a question about a topic helps a student to remember the topic. The more times a student or any of us encounter a new word or topic, the more likely they or we are to remember it. So I use learning checks after most lessons. These learning checks help me see if the students understand the content, but even more importantly, they give the student confidence as they see that they really do understand the material. Okay, those are my top 3 strategies. I listed hands-on experiences as my most important strategy for making science fun, so I thought it might be fun for us to do a couple projects together right now. First, we'll do a couple from Sensational Senses. There are no materials needed for these projects, so you can participate right along with me. The first one, we see with 2 eyes. That's called single binocular vision. Binocular means two eyes. Single visions mean we see one image. So single binocular vision means that we see with two eyes, but we only see one image. What happens is each eye sends a different picture to the brain, and the brain combines those two pictures into one. So now let's see how that works. Try this. Hold up your finger about a foot away from your face. Close one eye and look at your finger with the open eye. Now switch eyes. Now very, very quickly, go back and forth, closing one eye then the other. It looks as if your finger jumps back and forth. You can see that the image each eye sees is slightly different. But when you look at your finger with both eyes, you only see one. Each eye sends a picture to the brain. The brain then combines those images into one picture. Here's another activity that will show how we see different pictures with each eyes. If you have a piece of paper, roll it up into a tube. This is more dramatic with paper, but I'm going to demonstrate it with my hand because you can do the same thing with your hand by making your hand almost into a fist, just like that, so you have a hole. Now hold the paper or your rolled hand up to your right eye like a telescope. Now keeping both eyes open, hold your other hand in front of your eye about 3 or 4 inches from your face. If you position everything correctly, your hand will seem to have a hole in it. You might need to move your hand back and forth a little bit in order to be able to see that. But what happens is your right eye is seeing a hole and your left eye is seeing a hand. When you put them together, your brain decides that what you're really seeing is a hand with a hole in it. Isn't that kind of amazing? Science is so cool. So now I'm going to show you a demonstration from my Wonders of Water class. In that class, we learn about water molecules, and we learn that because of the charges that they have, water molecules are kind of sticky, and they love to stick to one another. I tell kids they hold hands really tightly. They stick together so tightly that they form a kind of skin on the surface of water. We call that skin the surface tension. You may have seen water striders or other kinds of insects walking right across the surface of water. They're able to do that because of the surface tension of water. But soap can break the surface tension of water. And this activity will show you what happens when surface tension breaks. I have here a tray of milk. This is just regular 2% milk. And I have some food coloring. I'm going to put a few drops of food coloring in the milk. We'll put 2 blue ones. We'll put 2 red ones. And we'll put 2 green ones. Well, accidentally put 3 green ones. Not a problem. We've also got some regular dish soap and some toothpicks. What I'm going to do, as beautiful as this is, we're going to make it even more beautiful. I'm going to dip this into the dish soap, the end of the toothpick, and then I'm going to touch the center of the food coloring. I'm going to do this with 2 at the same time. And watch what happens. Isn't that beautiful? Now, I can do it again a couple times. But what happens is the surface tension is broken. I call this activity exploding colors. And once we break the surface tension, we can only do it again. We have to bring in another container of milk, which I just happen to have another one. I thought you might want to see it again. So let's bring in another container, and we'll real quickly do this activity again. All right, I'm going to get 2 clean toothpicks, put in some food coloring, and we'll just do red and green this time. We'll get the food coloring, we'll get the soap, and I'm going to put it right in the middle, and you can watch the colors explode. That's because we're breaking the surface tension in the area that we're touching, and the surface tension in other areas pulls even harder on the molecules that are not affected, that are not being touched by the soap. All right, I'm going to tip the camera back up. And we're all going to give a big thumbs up for surface tension. Woohoo! I love surface tension. So now let's recap. The ways we make science fun are we provide lots of hands-on activities, we relate it to real life, and we frequently check for understanding. If we focus on these three things, our kids will want to do science. And as we all know, getting kids to want to do something is more than half the battle.